Be me. 25-year-old feminist, dating boyfriend for a year and a half now. I'm HR coordinator making $58,000. He's software developer making $52,000. Met through mutual friends. Hit it off right away. Had good chemistry. Relationship is solid. We get along. Well, enjoy spending time together. Always been passionate about feminism and social justice issues. Red theory. He's supportive of my views, but doesn't know much about feminism. Tell him that's the problem with most men. They don't educate themselves. Say that emotional labor of educating men falls on women exhausting. He says he's willing to learn if I can recommend some books. Feel happy that he's taking initiative to educate himself about theory. Make him list of essential feminist books he absolutely needs to read. Bell Hooks, Feminism is for Everybody. Simone de Beauvoir, Second Sex. Others. Add books about emotional labor, mental load, unpaid domestic work, women. Tell him he needs to read at least one book per month. He agrees and orders first few books, starts reading them in time. Notice he's actually taking it seriously, highlighting passages, taking notes in margins, asks me questions about concepts he doesn't understand from reading sometimes. Feel proud that I'm dating someone who's willing to learn, grow. Tell my friends about how he's reading feminist theory. They're impressed. Say, I finally found man who's willing to do the work. 2 months in, and he's read 3 books already, more than expected. He starts bringing up concepts from books and conversations, applying them. Talks about emotional labor and how society conditions women to do. Mentions mental load and how women carry invisible burden of household management. I agree with everything he's saying. Feel like we're finally on. He asks me how we can apply these principles to relationship better. Tell him we're already pretty equal compared to most couples I know. He says, yeah, but there's always room for improvement, according to reading. Feels slightly defensive, but tell him, sure, we can always work on. Notice he's looking at our relationship more critically than he did before. 3 months in, and he finishes book about mental load, emotional labor. Sits me down and says he wants to talk about divide responsibilities. Says he's been noticing patterns in our relationship after reading these books. Tells me he's realized he does most of household planning, organizing tasks. Says he's the one who remembers to pay bills, schedule appointments, dates. Mentions he does most of cooking, meal planning, grocery shopping, and cleaning. Feel defensive and tell him that's not true. We split things evenly. He pulls out his phone, shows me shared calendar he maintains alone. Points out that he's the one adding all events, appointments, reminders us. Says he's been tracking for past month, and he does 70% domestic. Tell him he's being dramatic, and keeping score isn't healthy in relationships. He says the book about mental load literally talks about women doing says, but in our relationship, he's the one carrying mental load. Me points out that I complain about emotional labor. Women do, but don't tell him that's different, because systemically women are oppressed in these ways. He says, but we're talking about our specific relationship, not society general. Ask me why I expect him to carry mental load, if about feel frustrated that he's using feminist theory against me, like weapon, now. Tell him he's misunderstanding the concepts and applying them wrong to situations. He says he's literally reading the books you gave me and applying. 4 months in, and he's read 6 books now, more than read. Brings up concept of emotional labor and how I expect him manage. Says whenever I'm upset, he's expected to comfort me, validate, make better. But when he's upset, I tell him to deal with it himself. Points out double standard in how we handle each other's emotional needs. Tell him men and women are different, and women need more support. He says that's literally gender essentialism, which the books argue against completely. Says feminism is about rejecting idea that men and women have different needs. Feel caught because he's right, but don't want to admit I contradicted. Tell him he's being pedantic and missing the bigger picture of feminism. Notice he's started keeping a notebook where he writes down things I say. Ask him what he's doing, and he says, tracking contradictions in behavior. Tells me he wants to understand gap between what I preach and practice. Feel offended that he's literally documenting my behavior like I'm understudy? Tell him that's weird and controlling to keep notes on your girlfriend. He says I just want to understand if I'm missing something, or hypocrisy. Says every book talks about self-reflection and examining your own behavior. Points out that I recommended these books, but don't seem to follow. Realize he's becoming more educated on feminism than I actually am currently. Feel threatened by his knowledge and understanding of theory. I claim no. He starts pointing out more inconsistencies between what I say and do. Mentions, I always talk about splitting bills equally because I'm an independent woman, but whenever we go out to dinner, I expect him to pay. Says I claim I don't need man to provide for me. Expect points out I make more money than him, but never offer to pay. Tell him that men should pay because they make more money systemically. He says so. You want to apply systemic analysis when it benefits specifically says you can't have it both ways. Either we're equals or not. Feel angry that he's calling me out on this, but no has. Tell him he's being difficult and argumentative ever since reading these books. 5 months in and he brings up physical labor and how divided. Says he does all the heavy lifting, furniture moving, car maintenance, yard. Points out that I expect him to do these things because he's man. Asks how that's different from expecting women to cook because they're women. Tell him that's completely different because men actually are physically stronger. Then he says, but you always say women can do anything, men equally. Points out, I contradict myself by saying women equal but expecting him. Says you use feminism when it benefits you, but abandon when requires. Feel defensive and tell him he's twisting everything I say into faith. He says, I'm not twisting, I'm just applying the principles from books. Start noticing he's discussing feminist theory with his coworkers at work now. Mentions woman named Sarah who's really into feminist literature and philosophy too. Says she's been recommending more books and they have great discussions about. Feel jealous that he's bonding with another woman over feminism. I introduced to ask him about her, and he says she's just colleague who interest. Says she actually practices what she preaches, unlike some people he knows. Realize he's comparing me to her, and I'm coming up short. Comparison. Tell him it's inappropriate to discuss our relationship issues with coworkers, like he says. I'm not discussing our issues, I'm discussing feminist theory. Educated points out that she helped him understand concepts I couldn't explain properly. Self. 6 months, and he's read 10 feminist books, now genuinely understands better. Brings up concept of choice feminism and how I criticize other women. Says I judge women who choose to be stay-at-home moms. Points out I criticized his sister for taking husband's last name, called patriarchal. Asks me how that's feminist if feminism is supposed to be choices. Tell him some choices reinforce patriarchy and deserve criticism for hurting women directly. From bell hooks about how feminism is about expanding choices. Says judging women for their choices isn't feminism, it's just imposing your values. Realize he's actually understood the books better than I have. Can't argue quotes. Tell him he's being annoying with all this book knowledge and stop. Notice he's been quieter lately, less engaged in relationship, seems distant emotionally. Ask him what's wrong, and he says he's been thinking about dynamic. Says reading all these books has made him realize I don't practice. Tells me I use feminist rhetoric to criticize others, but don't apply. Points out that I expect him to do emotional labor, mental, physical. Says I expect traditional male provider behavior while claiming to reject traditional. Tells me whenever feminism requires something from me, I find excuse doesn't. Says you've made me read all these books, but you haven't internalized. Feel attacked and tell him he's being unfair and looking for problems. He says, I'm not looking for problems. I'm seeing contradictions. Can't ignore 7 months since he started reading. And he tells me, wants talk. Says he can't be in a relationship with someone who's this hypocritical about. Tells me that he genuinely believes in feminist principles now, after reading, but being with me has shown him I don't actually believe, just says I use feminism as a weapon against others and as shield criticism. Points out that real feminism requires self-reflection and applying principles to yourself. Tells me he's met someone at work who actually practices feminist values. Says she splits bills, does her share of planning, doesn't expect treatment. Mentions she treats him as actual equal partner, not just when convenient. Feel panic rising because I'm losing him to someone who's better feminist? Tell him I can change. I can be more consistent with values. He says, you've had 7 months while I was reading to reflect. Says I pointed out contradictions gently at first, but you got defensive. Tells me you're not actually interested in equality, you're interested in advantages. Says you want traditional benefits of being woman while also claiming feminist. Points out man pay for everything in mental. Tells me the woman he's been talking to actually lives her values. Says she doesn't need to constantly announce she's feminist because her show realize he's right about everything, but too proud to admit. I have hypocrite. He packs his stuff and leaves while I'm standing there unable to fend. Week after breakup, and I'm scrolling through the books he left here. Pick up one of them and start reading it, for first, really, all the concepts he was talking about are actually in. Clearly understand now that I gave him reading list without actually reading myself. I just knew titles and general concepts from online discussion social media. Never actually sat down and read the theory I was demanding learn. He took it seriously, studied, highlighted, took notes, while I just performed. Feel embarrassed that my ex-boyfriend understands feminism better than I now. Realize I was using feminism as identity and aesthetic, not as practice. Put the book down because reading it makes me feel worse myself. Month after breakup and see on social media, he's dating woman work. She's pretty and confident and doesn't have feminist theory, quotes all profile. She just lives her life and treats people equally without making personality. See photos of them splitting bills, going Dutch on dates, sharing responsibilities equally. He looks genuinely happy with someone who doesn't weaponize feminism in conversation. Realize she's actually feminist through actions, while I was only through words. Notice all her social media is just normal life updates, not political statements. She's not performing feminism for audience, she's just being fair and equal. Comments on their photos are supportive. Nobody calling her fake or hypocrite me. Understand now that real feminism is about how you treat people loud. Try to date other guys, but find myself doing same hypocritical things. Expect them to pay while claiming I'm independent woman who doesn't money. Want them to do physical labor because they're men, but realize I've built entire identity around feminism. I don't actually practice life. Talk to therapist, and she asks if I actually believe in equality. Sit there, unable to answer honestly, because I've never really examined motivations. Spent so much time criticizing others for not being feminist enough. Realize I made him read 10 books that taught him my hypocrite. He learned feminist theory and used it to see through my contradiction standards. Now he's with women who naturally embodies values. I only pretended care. 2 months after breakup, and my friends start asking me uncomfortable questions. They want to know why I expected so much from him. Didn't. One friend says you made him read all those books got applied. Another points out that I was always criticizing his behavior, never examining. Realize my friends noticed my hypocrisy, but didn't say anything while together. They were just waiting for a relationship to end to finally tell truth. Feel embarrassed that everyone could see what I couldn't see about behavior. Ask them why they didn't tell me, and they say, "You called." Realize I've been insufferable and self-righteous while being complete hypocrite the time. Understand now why he had to leave me for someone actually practices, preaches? 6 months later, see they're moving in together. She posted splitting rent. She talks about how they share all household responsibilities equally, using app. Mentions how nice it is to be with partner who actually equality. Realize she's subweeding me without naming me. Everyone who knows us means my friends start asking me why I expected so much from didn't. One friend says you made him read all those books, then applied. Realize I wanted him educated enough to agree with me, but question. Thought feminist theory would make him more compliant, but instead, it's now I'm alone at 26, and he's happy with woman actually practices. Learned that you can't make someone read about equality, then treat unequally. Year later, and see announcement, they're engaged. She's posting ring photos, happy caption talks about partnership and equality and mutual respect. No mention label. Realize she doesn't need to label it because she lives it day. He comments about how lucky he is to have true partner values. All my friends are at their engagement party. I wasn't invited. Hypocrite. Watch from outside as he builds life with woman who showed real. She didn't make him read books. She just treated him consistent fairness. I made him read books, then showed him I didn't believe taught. Now someone else gets the feminist man I created by teaching recognize. Learn that demanding others educate themselves works great until they get C. Still call myself feminist, but realize now I was using identity. Spent years criticizing others for not being feminist enough while failing tests. Made boyfriend read 10 feminist books, and all they taught him, fraud. He took the lessons to heart and realized I didn't practice values. Now he's married to a woman who doesn't perform feminism online, lives actions. While I'm still alone posting about feminism, but treating people unequally suits. Tell myself I stood up for feminist values, but really use manipulate. Learn that making someone read theory is dangerous when you don't theory. He became better feminist than I ever was by actually reading, understanding. Now I'm the cautionary tale about people who weaponize social justice embodying.